So I knew that Glamour honored Rachel Zegler with Woman of the Year and several others. But this I learned about just today. Glamour UK has honored a list of 9 transgender activists with Woman of the Year. They're on this cover with each other wearing the Protect the Dolls t-shirt, which you've probably seen on Pedro Pascal and Tilda Swinton and a number of other celebrities. It's a t-shirt designed by a designer named Connor Ives, who has donated, at this point, over $600,000 of the proceeds to a charity called Trans Lifeline. And they're promoting it on this magazine cover with all of these trans entertainers and artists. I have not heard of a single one of them, but they published a piece alongside this magazine cover titled "The Dolls. What we really crave is to work, love, and exist with dignity." As trans rights face increasing threats in the UK, Glamour honors 9 of the community's most groundbreaking voices at this year's Woman of the Year Awards. From fashion and music to charity and activism, these trailblazers work tirelessly to empower, uplift, and celebrate trans voices. So that statement at the beginning there about threats to trans rights in the UK is obviously just pointed at the Supreme Court ruling which defined biological sex, which was pushed for by J.K. Rowling, namely, and a number of other high-profile activists. But J.K. Rowling also expressed her thoughts on the Dolls cover, saying, "I grew up in an era when mainstream women's magazines told girls they needed to be thinner and prettier. Now mainstream women's magazines tell girls that men are better women than they are." Put succinctly and perfectly well said. It's just embarrassing for everyone involved that this even exists, and it's way behind the times that they're publishing this at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that this type of activism, you know, when it comes to the marketing arm of these companies, like the magazines, which are oftentimes used as activist causes, so it's a little bit past the date of when it was fashionable.
Right.
But I mean, I guess that means they're truly committed to it if they're going to do it past, you know, people would ask, like, are they just doing it? People talk about the idea of like woke activism or like woke capitalism. Like, is it really capitalism? Right. Is it really not something they believe if they're doing it past its shelf life?
It's ideological, clearly. What I find most offensive about this feature is that they had all of these trans activists do interviews about their experience of womanhood. And they have this segment called Girlhood Firsts, where they ask them about, you know, when was the first time that you felt beautiful? What was your biggest mistake when you were entering girlhood? And they're just talking about makeup. Yeah. That's all they think it is. That's why they call themselves dolls. Yeah. They actually explain the term here as well, which has come up before on the show, but it is worth repeating. They say that it's a term of affection for the trans community that originated from ballroom culture. The queer ballroom scene is an underground LGBTQ plus subculture rooted in Black and Latinx communities that originated in the mid-19th century as a response to systemic racism and exclusion within broader queer spaces. So it began with these things called drag balls that later evolved into house ballroom culture in the 1960s, where Black and Latino queer individuals created their own spaces to express gender and sexuality safely. They have participants doing walking competitions, and that's where voguing originated. Yeah. It's all performance art. That's what they think womanhood is. They think it is a performance. Yeah. And that ultimately gender doesn't exist. Obviously, no one is listening to them anymore. The most well-known of the activists featured is Munroe Bergdorf, an activist who once branded all white people racist and said that the suffragettes were white supremacists. She was named the first UK champion for UN Women UK and was previously the first ever trans woman to model for L'Oreal in 2017. prior to getting fired by L'Oreal for inflammatory remarks about race. This was a diatribe after Charlottesville, the Unite the Right rally. Honestly, I don't have the energy to talk about the racial violence of white people anymore. Yes, all white people. Because most of y'all don't even realize or refuse to acknowledge that your existence, privilege, and success as a race is built on the backs, blood, and death of people of color. Your entire existence is drenched in racism.
So, again, like, it was like when I read the Wanda Sykes tweet last night that had her quote about how she would rather hire a woman than a man, and if it's a black woman, you got the job. I was like, look, they don't hate bigotry. They love bigotry. They co-sign bigotry, and they think that it's and they think somehow when they do it, it's clever, and they believe that they have like a right to be bigoted towards you, and that if you were to return the favor, it somehow makes you a bad person and them not. And not understanding that the average everyday person who isn't overly political brained doesn't understand the idea of how you could say all people when they themselves have not done anything to you. You know, that's operating in a level of good faith that they refuse to operate in.
Well, I wanted to understand their definition of protecting the dolls, and it's very clear. It means give us money.
Oh, of course.
Says, on the day of our shoot, most of the cover stars pointed out that the main way you protect a doll is to book one. More than just affection, trans women need employment opportunities and money to enjoy true security and autonomy. It's literally just give us jobs for free. Give us money for no reason.
I would love like that type of security as well.
They mention a trans-led initiative known as 5 for 5 in the UK, which provides mutual aid to trans women and gives them support monetarily. So, yeah, that's what that means. I'm honestly surprised that, given the social climate of the late 2010s, L'Oreal actually did fire this person for saying that all white people are racist.
Yeah.
Maybe that wouldn't have taken place in 2020, but we're certainly well past people's threshold of patience for this type of activism at this point. Even according to Don Lemon, now liberals are using trans as an insult for biological women. Yep. He recently was on a podcast where he insulted Megyn Kelly, calling her clockable.
Kelly chopped?
I don't know what that means. I don't know what is chopped. I've heard it, but I don't know what that means. What does chopped mean?
She's gonna get mad at me, dude. I don't know if I want this heat.
What is
I wouldn't want.
I don't
that
think
heat.
you want heat.
I don't
with
think
Megyn
you
Kelly.
want that heat.
Nah.
chop mean?
Chop means like not hot.
Yeah, she's chopped. I don't know, the whole MAGA look.
It's all the MAGA
it's
ladies.
too much.
Kind of looks like a Barbie doll covered in like WD-40.
I think she looks trans.
Let's end on that.
I think those guys clocked right away that what he just said was not
And then
acceptable.
he doubled down at the end.
I know.
She looks clockable.
She looks clockable.
I guess he believes that because he is gay and black that makes
He's
it
allowed to
okay
say
for him
that?
to say that. But those other guys, they're like, yo, we're white. We can't
We're not trying to get
say that.
canceled
Like,
right now.
yeah.
And speaking of the shifting attitudes about LGBT activism, I just saw this survey from YouGov as of just a few days ago. This is from U.S. respondents. Same-sex marriage should be legal, according to 54% of those polled, and illegal, according to 33%.
And you said that's the lowest in how long?
I'm not sure the last time that it was surveyed.
Yeah.
Did you find out?
No, I mean, I always assumed that was it last
It must
year
have
that they
been a
said that-
majority of Americans that were pro same-sex marriage in 2015, of course.
Yeah.
But that has shifted significantly, and especially support amongst Gen Z for LGBTQ rights.
I mean, I'm assuming
has
that's
been declining steadily.
Is that becoming a gendered issue? Like,
yes, it is.
Yeah, like that's the way I see it.
Absolutely.
It's becoming a gendered issue.
I mean, because obviously Gen Z men are shifting rightward, Gen Z women are shifting leftward. They're going in opposite directions. I think that's what's dragging their numbers down.
Yeah.
But I saw this and I was like, let's shoot for 40, guys.
It's a response to the ham-fisted way in which that they approach the discussion. So I've kind of made the point infinite times lately, as I've pointed out, that the best way to get people on your side isn't to show some bumbling idiot who's against your cause, but to show cool characters or characters you at least like supporting your cause, and that's how they did it in the 2010s.
Up until a certain point.
But then it became ham-fisted, and you had to throw in the guy who would be really, really over the top and bigoted and stuff like that. And that's always clockable as something that people can tell that the writer went out of their way to do that. Whereas, like, if you just watch any television show from the 2010s, if there was a character that was gay, the main characters would go out of their way to be like, I don't care. Because that's how most people felt, and that's how most people, maybe not in this audience, but that's how most people feel. Not talking about the activism side of it, not talking about the T and the Q and the far side of it, but what it was back in 2010 with the idea that, we're just like you. All we want is the right to get married. And that's how it was sold to people. But then, of course, it went extremely far the other direction. It's still going far the other direction, given what we're seeing for stuff like this. The media has pulled back because it's not monetizable the way that they thought it was. And the public soured on it because it's ham-fisted in the way they approach it. You can't do that level of hatred and vitriol in a non-ham-fisted way.
Well, even Megyn Kelly and J.K. Rowling, who we just mentioned, still maintain that they are pro-gay.
Yeah. I mean, look.
And they just are objecting to the excesses of the activist class. However, I think they've made a mistake. And they should own up to that, and not realizing maybe 10 years ago that this is exactly where we were heading. It was clear to conservatives that there's a slippery slope. We have watched it happen in real time, and here are the results. 33% of America thinks that same-sex marriage should be overturned.
We could get into a whole discussion about like government overreach and where it falls, related to like a moral discussion with people having about, your friends and neighbors as opposed to like what the government should be enforcing. I don't think it's really the point of this. The point here is more that it is interesting that this type of activism now feels like something of a bygone era. In a very short period of time. And they're going to fight tooth and nail for anything to the contrary. They're going to call anything involving straight characters as pronatalism. They're going to call it straight propaganda, all that stuff. The difference is that the numbers are still generally on your side about most people who are straight, or if you want to say how they would describe it as normal, are just going to be like normal storylines are normal storylines. And it's just what it is. It's all very, very boring in a lot of ways. Like this to me, it's like what that lady was saying, the activist was saying about like your basically your whiteness is your original sin. Like that type of dialogue was interesting to people in 2017 when they hadn't, when there's somebody who didn't go to any four-year college and never had to sit through a gender studies class and hear that type of discussion. But now people have been exposed to that type of debate and that type of pseudo-intellectual discussion a hell of a lot more. So it doesn't have the same effect on people the way that it used to. The same way calling someone a racist doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.